please welcome Tom Van Gessel, Travel Industry Lead, EMEA Partnerships Solutions for Google.
Wow, amazing. Thanks for showing up. It's been an absolute pleasure being here today and a privilege. I heard the party yesterday was good fun, so making sure that you're here is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed is quite amazing. My name is Tom Van Gessel. I work at Google, and my role at Google is to ideate and execute helpful solutions for the travel industry, including the partners that we work with. And today I'm delighted to share one such project with you, and that's done in collaboration with the Kantar Research. We did a research study with them on the real drivers of traveler behavior. So with that being said, let's get started, why don't we? So behavioral insights can make a real difference in the travel industry. What makes a traveler choose a hotel or a flight over another? Is it location? Is it its value or price point? Is it an addiction to a loyalty program? Or is it credible reviews? Understanding how travelers behave and it will allow us to answer these questions and allow all of us as an industry to serve our customers better. With that being said, there's one crucial issue that you should note. Behaviors are often different than what people say. So think about it. All of us here probably have had a New Year's resolution of some sort. You know, let's get fitter. I want to meditate every day, or I'm going to build some muscle mass, whatnot. But how many of those gym memberships go unused by April? Well, I know mine hasn't been used. With regards to that, the same disparity between what people say and what they do exists in the travel industry as well. Your friends and family are more than happy to tell you about their aspirations, about where they want to go, what they expect to do, what holiday they're planning on doing. But they're more than happy to tell you, but when it actually comes to booking, it's sometimes something entirely different. So take me, for example. I live here in Amsterdam, and my partner, Michiel, he's Dutch, and I wanted to take him to Taiwan because that's where I was born and raised. So that's where, this island is where I identified my culture, and it makes a big part of who I am. So in 2020, we had planned a trip to go to the island of Taiwan, but guess what happened, right? The pandemic. So unfortunately, those plans had to be canceled and shuttered. But in 2002, towards the end of the pandemic, when countries were opening up again, Taiwan lifted its very strict quarantine rules, some of the most strict ones in the world, about 2 weeks of lockdown upon arriving. So I was like, yep, I'm going to go. I told my manager, and I said, you know what, I'm off for 3 weeks. See you later. But then when I went to go book it, it ended up being something entirely different. So the planning didn't go as planned. So what we found is that despite the quarantine restrictions being lifted, there was flight scarcity because the flight inventory didn't return to the island. As a result, very high ticket prices. And then from there, Russia invaded Ukraine, so the Russian airspace was closed. And as a result, normally a 12-hour trip from here in Amsterdam was upwards of 20, 24 hours. And to add to that, the labor shortages that the industry has been facing overall resulted in chaos at Schiphol Airport, among other transit points. So the likelihood of a missed flight, lost baggage, didn't really sound like it was worth the investment in terms of going back to Taiwan. So as a result, I ended up in Egypt with Michiel. How did I get there? Well, that's pretty interesting. First of all, it's someplace that neither of us have been to, and so it's been on our bucket list. And so we decided to go. Number two, it was a direct flight, only 4 hours to Cairo, which minimized the risk of cancellations or transfers or lost baggage. We did carry on only 2, just in case. And it was guaranteed sunshine. For those of you who live here in Northern Europe, sunshine is very needed. So, oh, don't forget the cultural attraction. So if you haven't been, I highly recommend it. So these are the reasons why we changed our plans. But more importantly, what are the patterns that you can see from the decision-making process in my example that we can take and allow us to then better serve customers and travelers in the travel industry, especially when they don't tell you what they want? So that introduces, so the root of all of this is the concept of the say-do gap. And essentially, what this means is attitudes, the say, are often very different to the actual traveler behaviors, their do. So understanding say, or is relatively easy. Travelers or people that we survey in a quantitative market research report, you ask them, they'll tell us, they'll fill out the survey. However, when it comes to actually understanding their real behaviors, that's a lot more tricky. It's not to say that they're being misleading or not really sharing what their real intentions are. Oftentimes, these decisions are unconscious. And people say what it is that they want to do or how they intend to behave, but outside environmental factors, like the ones that I had in Taiwan, came into play, which then changes their end result. So, had you asked me in 2022 where I was going, 100% I was going to go home. It's been years since I've been back to the island. But decision-making is not always that linear, right? Our behaviors are constantly influenced by environmental factors that are oftentimes outside of our control. Our sentiments as travelers, they change in response to these volatile environments. So as such, travelers like me and you, we're always compromising, reassessing, rationalizing our trips. And often we don't even realize we're doing it. So, we all face uncertainty in our lives as travelers. But more importantly, this increased volatility that we're facing, on all aspects, you just need to turn on the news, is really impacting and contributing to the larger say versus do gap. And on top of this, it plays a major role in the traveler decision-making process. So, with these changed market expectations, alongside the difficulty that travelers have with regards to planning their trips these days, in addition to that, travel companies have a harder time then servicing these needs because of this volatility. So, the question I had to ask was, what if we could get inside the mind of a traveler and actually look inside to see what they're eventually going to do with all the stuff that's going on? We're all familiar with this concept of actions speak louder than words, right? So what if we can focus on behavior instead of opinion? And what if we can then use this insight to anticipate traveler needs even before they do? And as a result, with these insights, as an industry, how can we use these insights to do things differently and better serve the traveler experience? And so we tried to do exactly that. And in partnership with Kantar, we asked them this challenge about how do we understand traveler behaviors, not opinions, and what are the forces that drive them. Our goal was really to address the disparity between people's words and actions. One thing we hear a lot at Google and from our partners in the industry is for more and more insights. And I agree. Insights are the antidote to uncertainty, and it brings clarity in uncertain times. So we set out to answer 3 questions. How have expectations have changed with travelers? How have traveler behaviors have evolved? And thirdly, how can travel companies adapt their strategies and service in line with these changed expectations and behaviors? So with this said, we went and embarked on a massive undertaking. And so that was trying to understand the gap between traveler behaviors and attitudes, the say-do gap. So Kantar uses a special driver analysis that's predicated on the NPS score. So NPS essentially is the likelihood of a person to recommend a product or service to a friend or family. And after decades of research in the market research industry, there's a strong correlation with the NPS to correlate to actual behaviors, allowing the insights to be able to predict future behavior. So, with that being said, we went off and decided to do something with regards to this insight and started our survey. We surveyed up to 17,000 travelers across 6 different markets. These markets included the United States, the United Kingdom, Italy, France, Germany, and Spain. Sorry, sorry, Spanish people. Yes, so 6 different markets. And all of these were leisure travelers traveling outbound internationally, so none of the domestic travel. So we wanted to understand that the leisure traveler's mindset when they left their borders in a pandemic environment. And all of them had confirmed that they had taken a trip between April of 2021 and April of 2022. So partly as the pandemic was waning and countries were opening up towards the tail end. So as part of this process, we collected industry experts outside as well as industry experts within Google to really understand what makes up the travel experience. And so we came up with about 35 different experience elements ranging from health and safety protocol, booking and logistics, check-in options, loyalty programs, cost, value. So of these 35 experience clusters, they group into nine different experience elements. They group into 9 experience clusters, as you can see on the screen here. And with Kantar's analytical expertise through the driver analysis, remember, they were able to determine which of these factors drove actual traveler behavior more so than what they say. We're not going to be able to get into everything today, but I'm able to distill this massive piece of research into some core themes and also share with you some of the key differences that we saw between say and do in traveler behaviors. So let's get started on those. So 4 key insights emerged into what drives traveler behaviors, either consciously or unconsciously. The first one is that travelers are seeking an effortless experience. Number 2, they were more focused on trust than they were on loyalty. They were demanding a fair value exchange. And lastly, there was inconsistent views on sustainability. So starting with the first one, on effortless experiences, we found that travelers were very keen to reduce the work they now experience and associate with traveling, an effortless experience. So we found that 40% of the leisure travelers surveyed said that they now need to invest more time and effort to book and plan travel than they did before the pandemic. As a result, 77% of the time we found was spent on that planning process in comparison to 23% of post-trip time. And that post-trip time is not just the travel time when they're in trip, but also afterwards with the sharing process of after you've returned home. So it's kind of like me when I'm cooking some Taiwanese food at home. I make a beef noodle soup, stock, and it takes about 2 days. And then my friends come over and they eat it all up in 10 minutes. So a lot of effort, in a short time amount for enjoyment. But what's more that we found from our travelers in this research is that those who paid a premium ended up spending more time researching their travel plans. So basically what this means is travelers are looking for us as an industry to reduce the friction. And within this effortless experiences, we have 3 key clusters that we focused on: inspiration, the service offering, and transparency. I'll get into a couple of them now. So what we found is that travelers underestimated the role that inspirational content made on their actual booking behavior. What we found, what people said in the survey, that the overall inspirational content was ranked quite lowly. It was ranked number 23 out of 35 elements. And what we found through the driver analysis is that in terms of actual behaviors, the inspiring content actually had a higher influence on their actual behaviors. And as a result, what we found is that it moved from spot 23 over to spot 7 in terms of importance overall. So it's vital for travel brands to align themselves with aspirational, inspirational content, either producing it yourself or both. And so I highly recommend working with your media and your online distribution partners on just that. And overall, what we found is that inspirational content was much more effective when you were leaning on the actual experience, and as well as the destination marketing. The next experience cluster that we found under effortless experiences is this service offering. And the service offering fundamentally means, what is the product or service that you're offering? And within this cluster, we had aspects of the booking process, support, care, and customer care, your access to customer care, your flexibility on your cancellation terms, as well as your check-in options, among others. But what was particularly interesting about the service offering, and it makes a lot of sense because this is what you're selling, that it aligned really well in terms of importance between what travelers said was important and what actual behaviors were. In fact, the service offering was in the top 3 most important drivers for both say and do. Taking a closer look at one of the experience elements, remember the 35, within the service offering cluster, one thing really stood out. Travelers really underestimated the role that a seamless and an intuitive booking process has on their actual booking behaviors. In fact, they said it wasn't really important. It was actually ranked really low. But when we did the driver analysis, we found from a do perspective, in terms of their behaviors, it was ranked really, really high. When you take a step back and think about it, it makes a lot of sense, right? It's like, who here has gone to a hotel and said, oh my, this bathroom is splendidly clean? Like, I can't think of anybody who would ever say that. But if the bathroom was dirty, well, then it becomes the problem. The same idea exists with the booking process, right? People just expect it to work, and then if it doesn't work, they get frustrated. So unconsciously, they didn't value it until it didn't work, until you took it away. So the ease in which you can help travelers book effortlessly is super important, and it's a very big behavior driver. So it's critical that as travel brands, you eliminate barriers, streamline the process, and ensure the whole process of booking is seamless. And all of this can make a real difference. My recommendation is really start to review the booking experience and put your traveler hat on and look at your own assets like your own website, but also your distribution partners and OTAs to see how you come up and show up online to make sure that you have the right information, the transparency, and an easy way for them to book. So if they want to give you their money, you should let them. Moving on to the second insight pillar that we had, we found that trust is a significant factor in traveler bookings. In fact, their behaviors were more affected by aspects of trust than they were by loyalty programs on their own. In fact, 41% of leisure travelers mentioned that trust in their travel provider as an important purchase driver. The only exception I would see, remember this report is holistic around the 17,000 travelers, the only exception you would see was the difference between United States travelers and their European counterparts. In the US, loyalty programs are very much built into the ecosystem. It's very well established. So in order to measure trust, what we did is we combined health and safety protocols together with proven credibility as a proxy for trust when we compare it against loyalty programs. So in every country survey, travelers said that health and safety was of paramount importance. But when it came to real-life booking behaviors, it was less of importance. So, for example, one experience element we looked at was social distancing protocols and whether or not they were enforced at a hotel or an airline. In fact, all the countries said it was really important, and it was ranked 6 out of the 35 in terms of what people said was important to them. But in reality, it was, when it came to booking behaviors, it ranked really, really low. So what this tells me is that, people wanted to go and travel. They were hungry to go and travel with the pandemic. And that's a good thing for us as an industry, right? Because travel is something that's really core to our hearts, and as well as our travelers. But the big insight here on this is that other factors supersede cleanliness and health concerns. I'm not saying to keep a dirty hotel, not at all. Like, please keep your hotel clean. But it was important to know that that desire to travel is super important, that travelers would be willing to take certain risks with regards to health and safety, even though publicly they're saying that they wouldn't. So keep in mind that the way we did the research and how we worded the questions were very much on standard health and safety procedures and protocol, not exclusively pandemic. So it's important for you to have a baseline standard of health and safety and cleanliness at your properties and whatnot. But keep in mind that, remember the environmental volatility I mentioned before? Well, that volatility overall can contribute to differences in importance in behavior. So what we found through the course of the survey, depending on whether or not there was a new variant or another risk, the attitudes and behaviors with regards to health and safety shifted. So this one was particularly variable given the situation we are now as an industry with regards to COVID. Moving on to the third pillar in terms of the insight around finding a fair value exchange. This one I think we can all agree. So they're demanding a fair value exchange from the travel providers. This is not saying that they only want a low-cost option. In fact, 38% of them had said that they were more willing to book a once-in-a-lifetime trip than ever before. And so this suggests to me that people were prepared to pay more. And we're also seeing this in more third-party research that has come out recently and alongside our search data, where people are keen to still travel despite the economic environment that many of us are in. So within the service offering cluster, we talk about offer and value. And so I'll start with one now. So we now know that value is something that travelers want and expect. In fact, 21% of leisure travelers surveyed said that they experienced pain points when it came to their trip's value. Even though that this is only 1 in 5 travelers, who's to say that the other 4 of 5 didn't meet their expectations when it came to value? So we wanted to look into this, and we had one experience element of the 35 that was called good value for money. And guess where that ranked up? Number 2 out of 35 from a behavior perspective. So we all know that good value for money is something that's critical in order to attract and retain your customers. And what's more is that value is definitely much more important than just cost alone. 66% of these leisure travelers said that the price they had paid for their trip wasn't the cheapest offer that they could find. In fact, they could have found a cheaper option. What this is saying to me and us is that they're prepared to pay more as long as they meet a good value exchange and they get their good value for money. In terms of the last pillar of the insights, what we found is that sustainability is not currently, at the time of the research, a key driver of traveler behavior. There wasn't a unified view across markets, across generations and whatnot around the importance of sustainability. In fact, the key finding was that it was inconsistency. So some markets, more so than others, it wasn't a key behavior driver, but that's okay, because what we've also found, because we had a time chart, is that we found that sustainable travel, actually, its importance grew over time, particularly with the younger generation compared to other age groups. But all in all, what we found from a SAE perspective is that travelers were very keen on doing the right thing and wanting to reduce their carbon footprint. But unfortunately, their behaviors didn't really reflect these attitudes. It's not that they don't care. In fact, they care a lot. Right? We saw that from the research. It's just that sustainability ends up becoming secondary to their core needs if they're not satisfied, like value or cost, transparency, service offering. So it really matters, but unfortunately, if they're not receiving the right value, it's the first thing to go. And so given the choice, and without sacrificing their core needs, they will opt for sustainable choices. So I wasn't ready to stop right there on this in terms of an insight. I wasn't satisfied for that. So what I did together with our team is we wanted to dig deeper and to figure out what is it in the data that actually can give us something concrete to share. It is our duty as an industry as human beings to really focus on sustainability, because this is our future. This is where we live. There's only one Earth. But how can we as an industry make it easier for travelers to do the right thing and make sure that they act on sustainable choices? So this is what we found. Tangible attributes and concrete actions scored really high amongst travelers. And what we found is that businesses should focus on them. I can refer to what we've heard here this week with regards to Booking.com sustainability badge. Here's a clear way to really show what you're doing as a hotel from a sustainability perspective, and communicate that to your audiences. Google has a similar badge also on our assets. But on a more personal level, just drawing upon my experience, I hadn't traveled for a while, but then I went to London. I think all of us are familiar with the, hey, please put your towels in the bathtub and save a tree thing, or if you don't want your sheets changed today, put the placard on. But this hotel, and I won't mention who, because I'm not biased, but I was surprised. It was a little bit different. So they said, if you don't want housekeeping today, put this placard on the door outside before 9 a.m., and we'll reward you with loyalty points. Wow, for me, I was like, wow, that's just a little nudge in the right direction. Not only am I doing the right thing, I get rewarded for it. So that's the little nudge to kind of move things in terms of concrete actions as to what you can do differently as an industry to be able to drive sustainable choices. I really like that one, actually. I got rewarded. So one of the things that we did is that through the research across all 4 of these themes is that digital matters a lot. In fact, digital provides you an opportunity to address all 4. So from a seeking effortless experiences, it's really about easing the work they now associate with travel. Making sure you put the inspiring content in front of them before they even know they needed it. And then also reducing the booking friction. Digital simplifies this whole process overall, because inspiring content can be broadcasted to millions through digital channels, either through media partners or through your online distribution channels, and then seamlessly transition to an online booking. When it comes to focusing on trust over loyalty, we know that aspects of trust are more impactful than loyalty alone. So a loyalty program in and of itself does not necessarily garner and secure their loyalty long term. So the focus for travel brands is really about focus on building this credibility overall. And for example, every review that you see online is publicly available. These are all channels for you to really highlight your asset or your experiences and using the consumer, the travelers, to be your endorsers of your product. They have access to more information a click away. So if you haven't already, focus on how you respond and show up on these credible reviews, because these are a way for you to build trust with your travelers and your customers over the long term through digital. So on the third pillar, where customers are demanding a fair value exchange, we know that they're open to spending more, and that perceived value is fundamentally more important. So the focus should be on total value, not necessarily cost alone. And digital, from the perspective of cost and value, how easy is it now for you to compare across channels, your rates, your inventory, your offerings between different platforms and the competitor across the street? So digital provides a platform for travelers to do their research so that they can confidently pick the right travel experience and the supplier that helps them travel with confidence, knowing that they got the best deal for them from a value perspective. And then lastly, from an inconsistent views of sustainability, inconsistency being the key insight here, is that there's a lot of care to different degrees. And the behavioral impact of sustainability practices to different travelers is variable. However, you can drive their behavior with sustainable options and use these digital channels to really convey and communicate what you are doing as a hotel or an airline, and to share your values on the sustainability topic to your customers. Remember that they all said it was important, so it's prudent. It's important for you to make sure that you convey this online. In addition to that, make sure you take concrete steps and offer them concrete steps in which they can act more sustainably and do the right thing. So, digital matters, as I mentioned, and I think the key insight here, too, is that all of your online platforms matter. So it's not just your own website, it's your OTA partners, it's your meta partners, it's your online video platforms, social media platforms, all of this. These are all ways for you to reach travelers at scale. So if you haven't already, maybe look into your website and reduce that friction associated with booking. If you haven't taken the time to go and review your online listings on OTAs, perhaps it's time to make sure that you have all the right photos and that you're conveying the right values or conveying the right information in terms of transparency so that you convey the value that you provide. And then also from a prioritization perspective, looking at your overall media and your online distribution strategy to reach more people. So the insights I've shared today can hopefully help you prioritize what's most important. But one thing that came true out of this study is that digital is very important and should be a priority. So for example, let's walk through one. You can drive behavior with digital. So for example, you can use multiple digital channels to inspire your potential customers and reach more customers through all of your different channels and media partners with inspiring content, which then you target them and help them dream and think about, wow, that's the trip I want to take, and then seamlessly transfer them into a booking experience online. So something that I know that Booking.com has done really well because they do destination campaigns, and then you can convert these campaigns, if you participate with them, into an actual booking. So I only covered the surface. The body of research was actually quite large, and I'm still digging through the data. And I don't claim to have all the solutions either. But my aim today was really to give you some food for thought to prioritizing your resourcing and your strategies. And hopefully that you can take this insights to overcome the say-do gap. Overcoming the say-do gap isn't so easy. But insights like these can help you start to build a bridge. And by leveraging behavioral insights, you can turn travelers' resolutions into reality and help them meet their needs even before they do. And with that, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you. I'll be around if you wanted to say hello. Cheers.